just to give you guys a heads up, we're looking at the numbers for January. We're actually looking at properties that went under contract late 2022. So homes that went under contract either November or December, those properties would have closed in January. And so we're taking a look at those properties. We're going to see how many units sold, what percentage, just excuse me, difference there is from the previous month and also from the same time last year. And today we're going over Prince William County numbers. We've already
Northern
gone over
Virginia.
fair.
We did Northern Virginia first and then Fairfax County.
Yes, so we're doing Prince William County this morning, and we'll have your Loudon numbers available to you this evening.
All right. So before we begin, just to let you know, there is a link in the description to the Perfect Home Questionnaire. Fill out that form, and we will schedule a time to meet online via Zoom to answer any one of your questions. So whether you're buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate, that is what that session is for. So let's talk about the numbers. We're talking about Prince William County numbers today. And so we're talking about Prince William County numbers. Prince William has the second largest the second highest transaction volume in Northern Virginia. For us, we consider Northern Virginia to be these 6 areas.
And for those of you on TikTok, those 6 areas are Fairfax County, Arlington County, the city of Alexandria, Loudoun County, Prince William County, and Stafford County. And we're not surprised to see Prince William has the second highest volume in sales because it is the second largest county in the state of Virginia.
And so 23% of all transactions in January took place in Prince William County. Today, we're going to be covering closed sales. We're going to be covering 5 categories. So closed sales, average sales price, average days on market, percentage of units selling over asking, and average price over asking. In closed sales for January 2022, we had 465 home sales. This is down 29% for this past January, which we had 331 home sales. And we had for December, we had 393 home sales. So we are seeing a trend of the number of homes selling decrease.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the average sales price is up 2% from last year. So last January, we're at 497. This year, we're at 507. And then we're at 508 for December 2022. So we don't really have too much of a difference between these two months here, right? So from December to January, which shows us that the prices are staying steady, and this decrease in home value or decrease in the number of transactions has not translated into a decrease in price, which will lead to us having stronger prices this coming spring. So if December 2022 was some of our highest sales prices, and we're still seeing high sales prices in this January, then we should expect to see even higher sales prices this coming spring. All right, so average days on market are down. When I mean down too, I mean that so average days on market was 19 days in 2022, and then 2023 they are 39 days. So that means that the average days on market, the number of days is up. But I guess it depends on how you're looking at this. So from a buyer's perspective, a buyer will look at this and say, well, since it's taking properties longer to sell, then prices should be coming down. That's just not the case. A balanced market, too, just to keep in mind, a balanced market is a market where properties stay on the market for 6 months at the most, right? 6 months. So we're still in a seller's market because we're less than 2 months, really a little bit over 1 month. And that was even the same for December as well. So these two numbers here, as far as January and December, show us that we're kind of in the same market, we don't have much fluctuation, and we're actually going to see some more data when we get to the conclusion about the new listings and pending listings. Now, percentage of units selling over asking price, this is the 4th criteria. When we're looking at this number here, we're talking about what is the price of a property that is sold at, and then what is that number above the sales price?
Above the list price.
Above the selling price. Yes, above the list price, right? And so when you're thinking about this is going to give you an idea of how competitive you need to be, or at least how competitive the market is in the area you're going for. Now we're covering Prince William County numbers. You won't use Prince William County numbers when you're looking at properties yourself.
And that's because we want to make sure we're always looking at the local information. And when we say local, we don't just mean county, we mean the specific area you're looking in. So if homes are going for 15% over asking price in one neighborhood, that has nothing to do with another neighborhood. You want to see what's happening in the subdivision or near where you're looking to purchase. So you want to make sure when you're checking out your comps, you're looking at homes that are in a similar location. And when we say similar, we don't just mean the county, we mean within usually we say within the 2 mile radius, but if there are enough transactions, you really don't even need to go further out than a mile.
Yes. So 26% of all transactions that sold in Prince William County were sold over the asking price. This is down by 28 points from 54% the previous January, which is still shocking to think that over 50% of transactions last year in January were sold over asking. And then this is still relatively close to that December figure, which is 28%. So as you can see, we're kind of in the same market here. We're in the same market, and I think that this number is going to increase, and we'll talk about it in a few seconds. Now, average price over asking price. When you look at the properties that have sold over the asking price, what did those buyers pay over asking price? In January 2023, the homes that did sell over asking, they paid $9,000 over the asking, and then in December they paid $8,000 over
Mhm.
asking. Right now, this is lower than last year, which was $15,000, and still 15.19. I mean 15.9. That's still not a significant enough difference. You just need to know when you're going into a competitive offer situation where there's more than one person vying for the property, you may need to bring your offer up.
Yes, and what we say is this is the price that people have paid to win the homes. And so when you're making an offer, if you see that other buyers have offered 8 to 9 thousand dollars above list price, it's just something to keep in mind when you are preparing your own offer.
All right, so let's talk about the top zip codes. As far as sales is concerned, Dale City was number one with 47 transactions, and this is the 22193 zip code. Woodbridge East, which is east of 95. This is the 22192, and Woodbridge West, the 22191 zip code. Both had 43 transactions. Gainesville came in at third with the 20155 zip code with 28 transactions, and then Manassas City had 27 transactions for the 20110. Now, as far as our conclusion, we should expect home prices, since they're already higher this year, we should expect even higher prices as we go into the spring market. We should expect to see new pricing highs this spring, and then it will probably settle down in the summertime. There were 405 new listings this past January and 403 new pendings. So that means that the market is sucking up a lot of the property or the inventory that's coming on the market, which means that we're going to have less inventory moving forward. Less inventory is going to push up demand. Demand is going to make buyers a little bit more competitive, especially buyers who know they're going to buy this year. They're just going to spend the additional money to make that purchase happen. Days on market should start to decrease in February.
And we're already starting to see that. We're starting to see more and more homes come off the market quickly. So we're seeing homes go into contract after that first weekend on the market. We expect the days on market to drop in February, but we don't really think we're going to see the difference until March, again, because the homes that go into contract in February will be those that close in March. So we won't actually probably see that for another 2 months as far as when we report on the numbers.
Right. So if you're going to be competitive in Prince William County, make sure you get pre-approved versus pre-qualified. Pre-qualified is where you just give your lender some basic information about yourself. They don't verify any of your documents. Get all your documents verified through the pre-approval process, and this is going to take you a little time. So give yourself about a week for them to provide you with your pre-approval letter and for you to put together all your documents. Excellent. So that was our first segment there. And now we're about to move on to 100 questions every first time home buyer should ask. Before we do, let's answer any questions that we may have. All right, let's see. Let's see. Okay, so no questions at this time.
Okay, so we're going to get ready to go over the things that go on the actual offer or contract. So we're going to give you a brief overview of some of the things that go on the contract. Yesterday we spoke about what's included in the contract as far as just the basics of what is considered an offer. That's going to be the property address consideration, which means money, and the closing date. And we talked about, there being a few other things that are important in the contract. We're going to go over a few of those fields today. Now, as Abraham said, as we first got started, neither of us are attorneys. And so we are just going to go over what is found on a contract. We will not be giving any advice on these items. And if you have questions when you are reviewing your contract, you should consult a real estate attorney. Okay. All right. So the very first section is going to be that property description that we talked about yesterday. So really, that's just the legal description of the property. It is going to Okay. That's going to be the legal description. It's going to tell you exactly where the property is located, its lot and section, if it's located within a subdivision, and its mailing address as well. So that's all that's going to make sure that we have the right property, right? So from there, we move on to section 2, which is going to be about pricing and financing. This is going to show you how much you plan on offering. So when you say you want to offer $700,000 on a property, that is the sales price. And the next slide is going to talk about your down payment, the percent or dollar amount that you plan on putting down. And then the next section, 2C, is going to talk about your financing. So depending on your pre-approval, the type of loan the type of loan you're using, you'll check that off and specify the percentage of the sales price that will be financed. Now, as we move down further on that page, we also see a seller subsidy. We're going to cover that towards the back end of the contract, so we're not going to speak on it just yet. And then if you are using financing, whether or not your contract is contingent upon their financing. So does that mean that means do you need to get full loan approval before you'll be able to close on the property? And if that's going to be a contingency, it needs to be checked off on the sales contract. Same thing goes for an appraisal. If you are using a loan, then you probably will need to have the property appraised, or your lender will require an appraisal. And so you have to specify once again in your sales contract that you plan on having that appraisal done, and that the seller agrees to allow the appraiser access to the property. Okay, we spoke about this a little bit yesterday in our evening show. We talked about whether or not the buyer is going to occupy the property. So, if the buyer is saying that this is going to be their primary residence, they need to check that box off on the sales contract as well. You want to talk about the earnest money deposit?
Sure. So we're in section number 3. So the buyer's earnest money deposit is usually held by the title company. At least that's the practice that we use, and we also give our clients 5 days after the date of ratification, which we might as well just kind of spell out. The date of ratification is after all parties have signed the contract. So
And come to terms. Yes.
come to terms.
Yes. And that could be any number of days. So that field is usually blank. And so that's what we do on our contracts is 5 days. But that number could be whatever is agreed upon by all parties. Just like the earnest money deposit amount is what the buyer elects, and then what the seller accepts in the sales contract. The next section is settlement date. It says that you're going to close by a certain date. Now that's the third party consideration, right? We already have covered the legal address, the sales price, and now we've moved on to the third part, which is the settlement date. And you only need those 3 things to have a contract, but we use the North Virginia residential sales contract, and it's going to entail all these other items.
One more point before we move on to page 3 of 11. You get to choose what settlement agent you use or title company.
Yeah, so the buyer does designate the title company. Sometimes we do have split settlements, but primarily the buyer selects the title company. You should definitely ask your agent if they have a title company in mind for you to use. Most of us do have relationships with companies that we prefer. And so you should ask your agent. And if not, you should shop around and compare their prices, because many title companies will match the prices that you can find at another company. So if your agent has someone that they prefer to use, but you found someone with a better rate, I definitely recommend reaching out to that company, to the company that your agent prefers, to see if they will match that rate, because oftentimes they will.
Section number 5 is about down payment. So make sure that that is made with using a certified cashier's check or bank wired fund. Now, they most likely you'll have a combination of your down payment and your closing costs. So it won't just be one check for each.
That's true. And then the next section is delivery. That's just going to specify where documents need to be delivered. So any communication between the listing agent and the selling agent needs to go to whatever is outlined here. And this is how we can confirm that deadlines are met. So throughout the negotiation process, there are different documents that need to be transferred from one party to the other. And this right here spells out exactly where they need to be delivered. And everybody agrees that they will not do anything to hinder the other person from delivering those documents in the way that has been specified and spelled out in the contract.
Item number 7 is just stating about the Virginia Residential Property Disclosure Act. For the most part, the disclosures are kind of a joke in Northern Virginia, but that's a personal preference.
Well, right here, it says that the seller will disclose the information, but otherwise that the property is delivered as is condition. Virginia is a buyer beware state.
Right.
And that's why we always encourage our buyers to get a home inspection. And well, beware, but we always encourage buyers to have a home inspection, because Virginia is a buyer beware state. So you just have to make sure that you're doing everything you can to protect yourself. Next up, we have the Property Owners Association Act and the Condo Act. We'll cover those together. If the property is included in either a Property Owners Association or a HOA or a condo association, then then sellers are required to provide the buyers with the resale disclosure packet, or you have to let the buyer know in writing that the packet is not available. And for the buyers, when you receive that packet, you have 3 days to review them. It's going to include any violations, the rules and regulations of the association, the bylaws, the financials of the association. You want to make sure that you review those in their entirety, because during that 3-day review period, you are able to void your sales contract for any reason. And if that 3-day period expires, you may not go back later and say that you would like to void it because of something you later found in those contracts. Now, we talked about how important we think the home inspections are. And right here in section 10, we talk about property maintenance and condition along with inspections. So right here, you're going to tell the seller how you expect to receive the property. You want to receive the property broom clean, free of debris, and it should be in the same physical condition of either the date of the offer, the date of the home inspection, or another date chosen by the seller. And also, this is an important note for sellers, because this is a question that comes up often. Sellers, in the contract, it says right here in section 10 that you're going to have all utilities on through settlement. So a lot of times buyers will move out and they'll be like, oh, well, I'm moving out on Thursday, so I'm going to cut the lights off on Thursday.
Sellers will.
Excuse me, sellers. So I'm going to turn the lights off on Thursday. You're not. You have to wait until after settlement. So I always tell my clients, I wouldn't even schedule it until the day after closing, because you never know if things get pushed back a day, or you want to make sure that the buyer's transferring everything ahead of time. And then moving on, again, we talk about if the property is going to have a home inspection, you're going to select in this same section if you're planning on having a home inspection and making the sale contingent upon that, or if you're going to waive the right to have a home inspection. Now, if you're going to have a home inspection, we talked about that a little bit yesterday, but if you're electing not to have a home inspection, which we don't recommend, but if you're electing not to have a home inspection, you can still have an inspector come in. But if you're going to do that, it has to also be outlined in the contract at the time that you make the offer. So it says right here in section 10 that the contract is not contingent upon a home inspection, that the seller will provide access during a certain period of time to the selling agent, along with a licensed and insured inspector. But that has to be outlined on the front end. So you can't say, oh, I'm not going to have a home inspection at all, and then 10 days into the contract say, oh, I would like to have a home inspector come by. So all of these things have to be ironed out on the front end. We talk about the possession date next. And so, possession date is settlement date. Once everyone goes to the closing table and everyone has signed, the seller is responsible for turning over all of the keys, every key fob, the mailbox keys, which are often forgotten, the mailbox keys, any garage door openers, all of those things need to be turned over to the new homeowner at settlement. And then we have like some housekeeping things. Next up, we have utilities. So it's going to outline just what utilities are included, are which different types of utilities you have. So whether your hot water is electric or gas, you're going to find that out here. Your hot water supply, your heating, your air, your electricity, all of those things. And this is important when you're buying a single family home, especially some older ones. You want to know, is it on well and septic? That's where you're going to find it out right here in case you don't already know when you view the property.
And this information is usually supplied by the listing agent.
Yes. Now, this information can be found in all of the listings. Chances are you're looking at the pictures and the price and the square footage, but you're probably not reading all that information. But you want to make sure before you sign off on these things that you understand exactly what you're getting into. All right. So next up, we have personal property and fixtures. So that's going to tell you what conveys, or what conveys means what stays. So what do you get to keep in the property? So one thing we want to point out is that smart devices convey. So if you have a smart thermostat, smart doorbell, smart switches, those things convey sellers. So you can't show your home with all of these cool smart features and then decide you're going to take them out, because if you are, then you need to specify that and the buyer has to agree to that. Other conveyances and the things on the checklist are going to be things like your appliances, your refrigerator, dishwasher, stove, washer and dryer, even things like your window treatments. Do you plan on leaving the blinds, or are you planning on taking them? Because you'll be surprised how many times a seller is like, oh, I'm going to take these blinds with me. Right. So we want to make sure we have that in writing, what stays and what goes.
Now, I will say that one of the things that is often overlooked is that the TVs, a wall-mounted TV doesn't stay, but the brackets will stay. So the brackets, hardware, all that stuff will stay. Sometimes our buyer clients are like, "Oh my goodness, like they should have taken the wall mounts." But if they had taken the wall mounts and they'd have left holes, the holes would have then need to be patched. The patch would not match the original paint, and then now you have this big project to do.
Exactly. So they just leave the wall mount. So then you get to take care of it.
Exactly.
All right. So next up, if the home was built before 1978, you do have the option to have a lead-based paint testing. And we'll talk about another inspection would be a wood destroying insect inspection. So that is going to be paid for either by the buyer or the seller. All loans don't require a wood destroying insect inspection, but many do. You should check with your lender to see if you're going to be required to have that inspection done or not. Next up, we're going to talk about home warranties. Do you want a home warranty? And if so, who's going to pay for it? So we have the option where the buyer can pay for it. It'll come out at the closing table. They'll pay for it, or the seller can pay for it. And we also get to choose who selects who the home warranty provider will be. So you can choose, or the seller can choose. And there are a number of companies. You can ask your agent. We have a company that we prefer to use. There are many companies throughout the area. We don't see as many people getting home warranties these days. I mean, I can't recall the last time we had one. I think in the past, in the buyer's market, we definitely see more buyers asking sellers to pay for them. But when buyers have to pay for them, they don't ask for them nearly as much.
I mean, we don't really do a good job of promoting home warranties. I don't like home warranties, to be honest with you. So we don't really push them. But
yeah, I used to.
Yeah, if we push them, then our clients would most likely be more inclined to get them. And the way they pitch home warranties is, like, you don't want it, you don't know what's going to happen inside the house, so why not get this $500 to $1,100 home warranty, and then you may be covered. Too many of our clients have not been covered by repairs.
That's true. So we used to get a lot of clients with this one particular company, and they were getting lots of services done. But over the last few years, we've seen that they've been declining more and more services, and that's why we don't really push it as much anymore. Because for years we were fans of that company, but overall, the industry as a whole doesn't have a good rap.
Yes, it's like the casino. Some people have a great time at the casino. Other people not so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 20. Well, number 19 is a damage or loss. So just know that if there is some type of property fire or any type of damage to the property, you do not have to take possession of it.
Yes.
It's still
So
the seller's property.
it's the seller's property until settlement. And then next up on number 20, we have title. So when you select your title company, they are going to search and make sure that the owner is the person who is selling you the property, and they're able to provide you with clear title at settlement. So again, this is why it's important to use a title company that you trust, and why we like to say that you should contact your agent and see who they prefer. Like, we have one or two title companies we work with frequently. We have a relationship with them, and we trust them. And because clear title is so important, I don't think you should necessarily leave it to who has the best price. All right. So next up, we have notice of possible filings of mechanics lien. Anyone who's done work on the property within 90 days of within the last 90 days could put a lien on the property. So it's important that if there are any liens on a property, that the title company search that. And an effective lien for work performed prior to the settlement date could be filed after settlement. So it's important for buyers to know that, and you should definitely consult an attorney if you are concerned that someone puts a lien on a property after you've closed because of some work that the previous owners had done on a home.
At the closing table, the settlement agent or the title company will have the seller sign a document saying that they did not have any work that they had done on the property that they haven't paid for. So that will help your legal case in the event that that rare event happens.
Yes. And even for the work that's done. So we talk about having a home inspection. If you're going to ask the seller to do some work during the home inspection, things that you found that you were concerned about, one of the things that we always ask the sellers for, they have to provide us with the paid invoices. So we don't just want to know that the work has been done. They also need to provide us with proof that they've paid for the work that has been done. Okay. Now there are going to be several fees to both the seller and the buyers that are going to be paid at the closing table. For the seller, they have things like deed preparation, the closing costs in relation to any existing encumbrances, several taxes. That's all on the seller side, and the seller is responsible for their fees. And then on the buyer side, they also have a number of fees, which are going to include that title search that we talked about, any survey that they had done on the land, any recording charges for the deed. So all of that is going to be charged at settlement as well. So both parties will have fees. And right here, we're saying in section 22 that each party is responsible for their individual fees. Now, broker's fees are typically paid by the seller, and any compensation to the brokers is as listed in the MLS listing. And that's as of what's found in the date of the offer. This is really more so on the seller side, that they can't change how much commission is being offered after the property has been shown or after this contract has been entered. Okay. Next up, we have adjustments. So when we see the settlement statement, there are going to be some things that are going to be prorated, or some items. There are going to be some items that the seller may be due money back for. So if the seller has already paid taxes for the year, from the date of possession on, they will be refunded for anything they've already paid. Let's say you're closing on the 15th and the seller has already paid their HOA fees for the month. So essentially, they're going to be credited for that back 15 days that they've already paid. And the buyer will then pay for the remainder of that month. So we're going to see adjustments for things like rent and taxes, HOA fees. Okay. So next up, we have attorney fees. It says that if either party wants to have an attorney review their documents, everybody is responsible for their own documentation. And if you, for any reason, decide to seek legal recourse, it basically spells out who will be responsible for what. If one party defaults or the other, then if they are sued by the other party, it spells out who will be responsible for all legal fees, and also who will be responsible for any commissions that are due. Because if a party defaults and if one of the parties defaults, then they could be responsible for paying the commission that was due to both brokerages. Now, there are clauses throughout the contract to void. We have the opportunity to void because of the HOAs, resale disclosure packet. You also have the option to void during the home inspection period, a few different opportunities to void throughout the sales contract. Number 27 says that if the contract becomes void and is no longer in full force and effect, then both parties agreed that the earnest money deposit, which was talked about in section 3, will be returned to the buyer. Okay.
Now, as far as definitions are concerned, we already talked about data ratification. One thing I wanted to highlight was the definition for letter E. It says for the purpose of computing time periods, the first day will be the day following delivery, and the time period will end at 9 p.m. on the day specified. So just keep in mind that 9 p.m. is going to be a very popular number, or a very popular time for when we need to have things turned in, or when we should expect to receive some type of communication from the seller, or if you're a buyer, if you're a seller, from the buyer.
Okay. And then a few other definitions. We have the date of ratification, which is the date that Abraham said already, the date that everyone has agreed in writing that terms have been, we've all come to agreement and all parties have signed off on the contracts. No further changes are necessary. Okay. Days means actual days, calendar days, not business days. So if you say something's going to be within 5 days, then it's 5 days, including weekends, including holidays. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking of scheduling things. If it's during the holiday season and you're trying to schedule an inspection, if you say it's going to be done within 5 days and then it's around Christmas time, you have 2 holidays, Christmas Eve and Christmas, right? You could end up losing those days. So just make sure you're aware of the fact that when we say days, we mean calendar days. And just I think that's pretty much it. But I did want to cover one more, which is seller subsidy, because at the beginning I said that we talk about it at the end. A seller subsidy is the payment that a seller would make towards a buyer's charges. So in the event, not so much in this market, but in the event that you are able to ask the seller for some credit or closing costs, essentially that's going to be them paying money towards the money you would have to bring to the closing table at settlement.
We also see people using seller subsidy when it comes to negotiating home inspection items, because a seller subsidy reduces the amount of money you have to bring to the closing table. It offsets your closing costs. A seller may decide that they're not going to do a repair, but they can't really give you money directly. So they will provide you with a seller subsidy that will reduce the amount of money you bring to the table, and then you could handle that repair in the future.
Mm-hmm. Now, time is of the essence. That means that the date and time frames agreed upon by all parties must be met. So you can't say that we have 3 days and we know, based upon what Abraham said, that the third day ends at 9 p.m. You can't just say, okay, well, I'm going to turn this document in at 10 p.m. Okay. Yes, you can ask questions. We answer questions in between each segment. So we're wrapping up this segment. We just have 2 more sections to cover and we will answer any questions then. Sorry, we had a comment on TikTok. All right. And so we said time is of the essence. And then the next one we want to talk about is the entire agreement. Buyers and sellers should carefully read the contract to make sure the terms are accurate. All contracts for for the sale of real property, including any changes, must be in writing to be enforceable. So this is why we say all the time, we turn in or we give all of our buyers a copy of the sales contract on the front end. We send all of our buyers a copy of this along with any addendums or the general addendums we typically use for them to review before they've even seen their first property. Because we want you to read the document in its entirety. So if you have any questions, you can ask Abraham. If you have any questions he can't answer, we'll advise you to consult a real estate attorney. But this is why we ask all of our clients to read the document beforehand, because it is a binding legal agreement. And in the hot market like we're in now, you may be making offers very quickly. And so you may not have the opportunity to read. This is 11 pages, this document. But with the other addendums, it can get to 20 pages.
Very quickly, too. Very quickly. All right. Let's see. So number 32 is assignability. That's not something that we really see that often, but it just says you can't really assign without written permission. And then 33 is about addition, and this is like any contingencies or additional document. The document that so there's a long list of items here, but the document we see added most is the home inspection, radon testing contingency, conventional financing, or VA, FHA, USDA financing, and then there is the post-settlement occupancy. So outside of the other items, we don't really see, or do you
We
see?
don't see the other ones as often. I think that contingency and clauses is one that we use a little bit, which is that's we typically see that one when we either have an unrepresented party. So if one of the parties are not represented by an agent, we use that one. If the one of the parties has a home to sell in order for the deal to go through. So if we have a seller who says that they want to find a home of choice. So we have a seller who has a house on the market, but they say, hey, I'll only sell you my house if I can find a house. So we've used that one, but we've used that before. And likewise, if we have a buyer who wants to purchase a house, they're making an offer on a house. But in order for them to buy your house, they first have to close on their property. So we do use contingency and clauses quite a bit as well. And that's it. The last page just has the contact information for all agents involved. That's just for informational purposes. There's nothing to sign there on that page, but it does give you the contact information and the brokerage information for all of the parties involved. That way, in the event that you do need to contact the brokers of either party, you have that information available.
Well, I mean, there is somewhere for you to sign.
Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry. Yes,
yes,
I'm sorry. Yes,
this
the
is
final
the
page.
this is the page.
Below the signature is for informational purposes only. We have all the agent contact information.
You know what I find strange about Virginia's contract?
No,
They don't have initials on every page.
they just took that off. That was actually one of our most recent changes that changed in July of 2022.
Yeah.
That is a recent change. They just changed that as I said in July.
Interesting change. Interesting
Mm-hmm.
change. I mean, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Let's get that out your way. All right. So we got that out the way at that time. Yeah, that's an interesting change. I mean, I wonder, yeah. Okay, so that was everything that goes into a contract. So that was question number 33 from 100 questions every first-time home buyer should ask. Again, we are going through this book because we're giving you a local's perspective of this conversation. The book goes through an example that she has. It's not as relevant for our market, so we figured, you know what, let's just walk you through a contract and give you an idea of what you can actually expect. So now we'll get through, we'll cover some more questions, and so get your questions ready. Let's see. All right, let's get it right here. All right, so we have a question on the TikTok. Boop, boop, boop. All right, so first question we have is, are there any new single family homes buildings or coming up in near future in Stafford? Range max is
5,500. It says 5.5.
5.5K. Is that $550,000, you think?
No, I think it's 5,500 a month. 5.5.
No, she said this person says single family, new single family homes. Do they believe that are they asking if they're new rentals?
No, I believe they're asking if with a monthly budget of $5,500 for the new single family in Stafford.
I mean, I don't know what they're saying. I mean, they asked the question. You're
That is my interpretation.
Yes, it's
of
an
it.
interpretation.
It could also be $550,000 sales price.
I don't have enough information to answer this question. 5,000. I don't know. If you're still here, please provide us a little clarity on your question. All right, so we have, hi Matt, we ask questions. Yes, you can. Okay, nice. Okay, I invest in real estate, but I am trying to figure out what is more profitable. Right now, I do private lending and then sometimes flip a house. Not sure between those. Owning Airbnbs or long-term rentals and holding property to just rent. Which one do you think would recommend the most? I'm looking to get passive income. Okay, so if you're looking to get passive income and private money is usually more expensive, so that's going to cut into your profit. You flip houses. I mean, flipping a house isn't passive. And then we have owning Airbnbs or long-term rentals. I would say that owning Airbnbs is really risky at this time, just because there's a lot of legislation right now that's coming out against Airbnbs, and a lot of neighborhoods are objecting to them. So you could start to build your Airbnb portfolio, and then a local government will say, you know what, we don't like Airbnbs, or they'll start to tax you on them. Um, so long-term rentals, I would say, are going to be a more not necessarily a sure bet, but a more consistent return. The only problem is, so we're in Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia, we do not have a strong history of having investment properties or even investors that make a lot of money off of long-term rentals, because our prices are kind of in alignment with the rental market. So you buy a $600,000 townhouse, it's not likely that you're going to be able to cover it's not likely that the rent will actually cover the mortgage.
Especially not with the current interest rates.
Yep. I think they left. Yeah, I think they left as well. So they're talking about the person who asked the 55K. Okay, I do pretty good lending money. I make 10 to 12% on the sum plus a lender's fee. I mean, if that is what you're making, if you're already making 10 to 12%, I mean, that's a little bit above what the stock market return is. I don't think that you should expect to make more than that in real estate, given the fact that a lot of real estate investors make their money, after holding properties for decades, not even like a couple of years. So there are people who promote the idea that you can make quote unquote fast money in real estate. But if you'll see, like, most of the people that they make books about and that they talk about on stage, those individuals are usually holding properties for, decades, even transitioning from family member to family member. I mean, that's real estate is more of an equity play than it is a cash flow play, at least in our market. So that's what we're seeing in Northern Virginia. All right, all right. So get those questions ready. If you have any questions, post them down below. All right, all right. All right, so our next segment, while we clear out some more questions. Oh, excellent, excellent. So the person is back with the Stafford question. We were just talking about you. What were you asking? So your question is around, let's see where it is. Are there any new single-family homes buildings or coming up in near future in Stafford? Range max is 5.5K. What do you mean by 5.5K? Is that your monthly budget? And let's see, we have one more question from the person who's asking questions about the investment properties. All right, and I would like to try to get multiple units, but it's a lot of work. I make $2,000 a month from one house right now. Yeah, again, I mean, real estate is really just it's just a slower build, because there's so much equity. I mean, there's so much resources that you'll need at the beginning of the process, and a lot of the options for buying homes with a limited number of resources go into the gray area of just life. All right. So, okay, so the budget is $550,000. So as far as new construction properties, there are new construction homes in Stafford, but you're not going to find single family homes in that price range. So you'll need to come up at least another $200,000 for Stafford, even Stafford. Because what happens is, a lot of builders, even though they're moving further away, they actually make the homes larger. So Stafford, there is one development right now called Embry Mills. That is there's a couple builders that offer new construction properties. I believe there's a Ryan Homes, and also I think there's one that's called Richmond something, that have the lower price models in Embry Mills. But again, they're still I think they start in like the high sixes, low sevens.
Somebody has something in the six or high fives, low sixes in Stafford. We actually just had somebody email us one. I'm trying to blame, but maybe not 550, but I know it's below 6.
It's below 6
Mm-hmm.
for single family.
Yes. I think that it's a small, like one of those smaller builders.
Oh, okay. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So yeah, so let us know. Yeah, let us you probably want to just reach out to us about that specific question, and then we can get that builder to you, because like Crystal said, we do have a client who reached out to us about that information. All right, so we have one more question we have another question. What is your favorite way to gain passive income? Well, through our company, we can assist in recruiting agents to our company, and then when the agent moves into our company, we make money off of their future income. So that's our favorite way of having passive income, because it only requires a little front end work, and then you just have to keep the pipeline, quote unquote, filled. So that's one way of our ability to make passive income. We also make passive income off of our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel pays us monthly, because we have over 1,000 subscribers, and we have enough views for that to produce some income as well. Okay. Oh, very interesting. An agent for what? I am very unfamiliar. A real estate agent. So we're real estate agents. So we're with Keller Williams. Keller Williams offers us an opportunity to assist them with recruiting other agents. All right, thing 852, is that 852? Yes. Said thank you for answering. My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, just there's a link in our bio if you want to schedule time for the perfect home questionnaire, and we can answer any questions that you may have face to face. Oh, like headhunters. Yeah, just sort of like headhunters. That's a good analogy. All right, all right, all right. All right, so 100 questions every home seller should ask. That's our next segment, and we're going to be covering question number 4. How to make your home sellable.
Okay, so she starts this section out with a little story about a couple who's gone through one of those life changes we talked about earlier this week. So typically, when someone is selling their home, they are going through some type of life change. And with this couple that she's talking about, they realized that their current home was too small. They recently got married. They're looking around and they see that the house no longer suits their needs. But not only do they realize it doesn't suit their needs, they also realize that they can't just put it on the market in its current condition. Which, how many of us could wake up today and decide that we're going to just sell our house and think that it will be ready, right? So we're going to talk about what you would need to do in order to make your home market ready, or as she puts it, sellable. So over the time, just the time of owning a home, whether it's 5 years or 20 years, you're just going to collect a lot of things, a lot of stuff. And that's going to be, people who hold on to greeting cards and gift bags. Maybe it is that you have lots of old magazines, just mail, newspapers, books, whatever. Broken appliances, something that you used to have and love that you just don't use as often anymore, right? So we have collections of things. And so the very first thing you're going to want to do is think about how can you start to weed out some of those things.
Yeah, there's a page on page 30 in the book. There's this really nice section I want to just read out aloud, because she does a great job with this piece of the content. She says, as homeowners, we often find ourselves posing as collectors. We collect clothes, toys, children, mementos, tools, broken appliances, rusted pipes, books, papers, filing cabinets, and boxes of such inherited treasures as someone else's clothes, books, papers, and broken dishes. We keep these things partly out of laziness, partly out of the belief that one day these things, like Barbie dolls in their original wrappings, will be worth a fortune, and partly because they help us establish a sense of history and identity. I think she did a great job with that little segment there.
Mm-hmm.
I will also say in the next section, it talks about how you have to transition from being a collector to a seller. And that means that you're looking at your property objectively. And she kind of walks you through a couple ways to look at your property from the eyes of a buyer. First up is unclutter your home. So this book is from the 90s. And so we no longer say unclutter, we say declutter. So I thought that was interesting how the people in the olden days used to talk. So this just means that you need to just remove as much stuff as possible. You want to make your property neutral, and when we talk about neutral, we're talking about really colors. So neutral paint colors. If you have a room that's painted a very aggressive color, or a very personal color, so maybe like a dark red or orange, yellow, you want to bring it down to some neutral color. In this book, they recommend that you bring the neutral colors are white, eggshell, pale gray, or beige. We're really seeing more pale gray or just a gray family. A lighter gray is one of the more popular colors at this time. And then we have throw it away, throw it out, or give it away. And this is again to the decluttering phase. So a lot of times we'll have clients who try to declutter where they're really just moving items around the house. So they'll unload their kitchen stuff and remove all the stuff off the countertops, and they'll take stuff out of their closets, and then they'll move everything to the garage. If Now, I will say we don't mind you moving stuff to the garage. You know that the garage is one of the last places that you can kind of have stuff located. And if we can't see the garage, if the buyer can't see the garage, they can't appreciate the garage. So this may be a time when you want to have a come to Jesus moment about some of these items that you've been carrying around that you haven't been using. A good measurement tool for you is if you've been having something in your home for more than 3 years and you haven't used it, then throw it out or give it away. They say to start with 5 years. I would say 3 years. If you haven't used it in 3 years, it's a good chance that
it won't be used.
it won't be used.
I did want to go back a little bit about decluttering and just talk about when we say declutter, we don't just mean picking up things from around the house. You also want to kind of clear things from the spots in the house that are going to be visible. So you want to thin out your closets so that the closet appears bigger. It's your coat closet, especially. So if you have a lot of coats in your coat closet, you want to thin that out. The walk-in closet in the primary bedroom would also be great to thin out. Take out some of those seasonal clothes that you aren't currently using. Again, it just makes the space look bigger. You're going to do the same thing with your bookshelves. You're going to kind of thin those out, and your entertainment centers, just clearing things out to make the place look more spacious. And maybe you have in your coat closet some of those coats that you haven't been able to fit in a few years. So that would be a good idea to move those things out as well.
All right, number 4, she suggests that if it's broke, fix it. Buyers hate to go walk through a property and start to see things that are not working, or also start to hear sounds that are kind of alarming that you as a seller, you've just come accustomed to. And you think that, the next person is going to come accustomed to them too. That's true to a degree. Yes, when you move into a property, you'll live in it, and then that living in it, you'll just be okay with settling with whatever's wrong with it. But when you're buying it, you become much more picky about these little sounds. Get that stuff fixed. If the door is rubbing, get that fixed. If the ice maker doesn't make ice, get that fixed.
Yeah.
This book does suggest, though, that you get all those items fixed before you talk to a real estate agent. I disagree with that. I think the real estate agent should be in this conversation with you about what needs to get fixed, because this is like a project management task, right? So selling a house is really like a project management. And with this project, you want to take all of the resources or all of the people you need, and you want to have them come through the house once. So if you start the process, and we've seen clients do this where they will try to fix the property up before we actually come and see it, to tell them about what the potential value is. And that's just a wrong move. You should just let your agent see the property in its current condition and then advise you or work together on a plan of attack to get the property ready to sell.
I agree. And I just wanted to point out what he said about making sure you get those little things done. It's important also that you take care of those little things, because when your buyers or prospective buyers are walking through the property, when they see things that are askew, for them, they're like, well, if I can see this, what are they hiding from me? So you want to just make sure you take care of those little things on the front end. But again, as Abraham said, have your agent help you figure out exactly what those things are.
There's one point I highlighted in the book. It says, it says that if you do these things, you'll probably take a good look around and wonder briefly why you're moving from such a wonderful place. We have had several clients who have done kitchen renovations, bathroom renovations, whole house paint jobs, declutter the space, and then when they get to the end, they're like, "Oh my goodness, this house is nice." It
Why
rem-
not do this before?
yeah, it reminds them of why they purchased the property. So my my recommendation is, if you're going to fix up your property, or you should fix up your property when you move in, and then live in that property in its fixed up state, so that you get the benefit of it. Because too many people will do whole house repair, whole house renovations for the next buyer, just so they can make, quote unquote, a little bit more money,
Mm-hmm.
when they could have had more satisfaction out of the property.
That's true.
All right, so that's it as far as the saleable is concerned. Did you have any more comments you wanted to make on that?
No, I didn't. That is it.
Okay,
That
excellent.
is it.
Excellent. So we are now in our questions phase of the video. So if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, post them down below in the comment section. Not tomorrow, next Monday.
Next Monday.
Do you say next Monday when Monday
You could
is?
say Monday.
You could say Monday.
You
Okay.
could say Monday.
Excellent. On Monday, we will cover question number 5, which is how can I look at my home through a buyer's eyes? How can I become more objective when looking at my home? Interesting question.
I'm looking forward to that answer.
Yes. And then for the buy side, we will be covering question number 34. Question number 34 is, what is the earnest money? Who holds it? When do I get it back? That'll be a good little segment. That should be a short segment too.
It should be.
So right now we'll answer any questions that you all may have. Questions about buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate. We'll stay on for a little while. And then we do have a night show. We have a night show at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight is probably our last night show.
That's true.
Because we'll just switch to just morning shows from here on out. All right, so Tequila said, I'm in Canada, but we have Keller Williams here, and I would let you recruit me if it makes you guys money. Oh, thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that. And also, you can do the same thing. Once you get in, you can also bring people on board. Thanks for joining us, Juan Corona. 1, 2, 3. You get that? Juan Corona. It's that song. Anyway. Dylan Gonzalez, thank you for joining us. Let us know if you have any questions. All right. So this is the last call for questions. If we don't have any questions by the end of this song, then we will say farewell.
So this is usually on the last show of the week. This is when you usually ask if people had any weekend plans. Do you have any weekend plans? Anything going on this weekend?
Do you
have any plans this weekend? Anything going on this weekend?
No, I haven't even thought about the weekend. This 2-a-day shows has caused me not to really think about anything in the future. We're going to see a movie next Tuesday.
You have appointments most of the day Saturday, so you won't be able to do anything on
Oh,
Saturday.
do I?
You do.
Okay. Well,
you have 3 appointments on Saturday. So
well, that's what I'm doing on.
That's what you're doing.
That's what I'm doing on Saturday then.
Yeah, it is. So maybe on Sunday there may be a chance to go do something with the kids, or not, because we have Tuesday with them.
I have my dad's group session on tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Panera Bread in Kingstowne.
Oh, you should do another video about that as a reminder today.
Oh, you think
some
so?
people interested. Some people were interested last week like a little reminder.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
Mm-hmm. When you said Tuesday, when you said you had your dad's group, I thought you were saying you had your Tuesday night group. And I was like, oh, I already bought the movie tickets. But
No.
I'm glad Abraham's tennis tryouts on Monday because on Tuesday we had already bought the movie tickets.
Excellent, excellent. Well, hey, thank you all so much for joining us on today. There is a link in the description if you want to have some one-on-one time with us to the Perfect Home Questionnaire. Fill out that form, and we will schedule a time to meet online via Zoom to answer any and all of your questions. We will be back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then next week we have a great show for you in store. Take care. I hope you have a great weekend. Until next week, peace.